next game we're going to talk about and rank is Mega Man 3, which was nominated by @YaJigger on Twitter. It was developed by Capcom, published by Capcom for the Nintendo Entertainment System. First released or earliest release was September 28th. We got a lot of September games here. Between this episode and the last episode, I think. September 28th, 1990 in Japan. Oh, and we also did a Super Mario 64, which was also September, right?
So September's a very popular release period. It's enough time for kids to realize they want a game and to get it for Christmas. You know, that's very popular.
Yeah, it's kind of like TV sweeps, like a big push for games to also get people geared up for the Christmas time. But why not make some money around
Speaking of which, here's how I'm going to introduce Mega Man 3, which is that this is the video game I wanted more than any other video game or possibly thing in my life. The first game I asked my parents for that that they wouldn't have known. Like they got me Super Mario Bros. 3 because every parent knew that their kid wanted that game. But this was the first one where they didn't know about Mega Man, and I had to say, like, Mom, Dad, for Christmas, I want Mega Man 3. It's a video game. I really, really, really want it. And you know what made me want to get it was that I had played the other two Mega Man games. I liked them. But what I really liked about this one was that you could cheat by having holding down the second controller to have like the super high jump and do.
Yeah,
I was like,
remember that.
There's all kinds of cool stuff you could do with that, And I was like, when I saw that, I was like, oh wow, this is cool. I think you could trigger. It was like a debug function, right? That was just accidentally left in the game.
Accidentally or deliberately. I mean. It's definitely a debug function.
Here, let me get this out of the way. I don't know if this is jumping the gun, but Mega Man 3 is one of the most fun games in this series. If not because it is also one of the sloppiest in a way. Something about it feels just a little bit unfinished compared to the others having sort of a veneer of polish. It feels like this one is missing something.
You have hit the nail on the head. It was unfinished. Now let's rewind a little bit and understand that Mega Man as a series at this point had not been established that every game was going to be basically the same as the one before. That wasn't set in stone, right?
No, exactly. Now, 3 was sort of also like the last really original one before the series just kind of settled into its own niche with 4 onward.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, it wasn't, but it really wasn't that original. Like, they wanted it to be different. Like, Mr. Inafune, who worked on the other ones, said that he felt like this one was rushed to market because Mega Man 1 was not a huge hit, but it was like a sleeper hit, and it gave them the ability to work on Mega Man 2. And when they did that, and that was a big hit, it made a lot of money, sold a lot of games. Like, all right, you got to make another one. And they were kind of like, because they were creative people, young, restless, creative types. They wanted to make this one a little bit different. They wanted to add a lot of new stuff to it, I guess, that did not make it into the game because the company is also the publisher, and they're like, no, there's always somebody. They
wanted to make that Christmas window.
Right. There's always somebody at the company above you that their job is to look at things from we have a black hole in our release schedule for September. We got to put something out that's going to sell. Why not a new Mega Man game or a Rockman game, as it was known over there? So they felt it was kind of rushed to market, and it did introduce a kind of what you would think would be a more unique aspect, which was the robotic dog buddy. But all it really did was just put a character in the place of the faceless, personality-free kind of tools. Items.
Mega Man 2.
Mega Man 2.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Although it did also introduce the slide mechanic, which was fully unique. That was not in the first two.
Right.
The slide mechanic is the best introduction in this game.
Definitely. Probably the only change from Mega Man 2 that I felt like was really could add something to the game. It didn't add much, I remind you.
It did add a way for speedrunners to cut down their times even more.
Right. Yeah.
I think what it added in terms of raw design is it adds because Mega Man, he can't duck, right? He never ducks. So what he can now do is you can have points where instead of jumping, you can now slide. So that adds a second choice. Right. You can't dodge an enemy by jumping, but you can dodge it by sliding. So you got to make that split-second decision.
For really high-level players, they would do that. For people like me, I almost never use it for anything other than sliding through the things you're supposed to slide through.
And looking cool.
You kind of, yeah.
It's useful for evasive maneuvers every now and again, but that's
no. I think that's what it was supposed to be for, but I don't think they had time to really integrate that into the game. And ever since then, they've never really bothered.
Well,
which is why when they went back to make Mega Man 9 and 10, they just did away with it, right? So it just was not really fully realized thing. Well, the other thing that I really liked about it as a kid that really impressed me was that after you beat, like everybody knows how Mega Man works, right? You got the 8 robot masters, or 6 as it may be in the original,
in the first, yeah. And
you beat them, you take their powers, and then you know each one has a weakness against another power, and you got to figure out the right order to do it, et cetera, et cetera. In this game, as I'm sure you guys all know, but some of our listeners may not know if they're familiar with later Mega Man games mostly, is that after you beat the 8 robot masters, 4 of those stages get reactivated and changed, and they put in the old robot masters from Mega Man 2. And you don't get their weapons, but you still have to fight them. So you have to, and what's cool about that is not only do you get to revisit old stages, which I think was something that was going to play a bigger part of the game. It was going to involve like the rush drill or something like that they didn't.
Well, when you say old stages, you mean the stages from this game, not old stages from the older game.
You go back to Sparkman stage. You go back to
Shadow Man, Eel Man,
Gemini
Man.
Yeah. Yeah, so you go back and the stages are ruined because you somehow destroyed them when you like killed the load-bearing boss. At the end.
They're a lot harder now, and if you don't have Rush Jet, you're screwed. Especially for the Eel Man stage, it's completely mandatory for that one, which is a little sloppy, but
Well, I mean, like the whole thing, like the second round of these levels really feels like a rush job. They're just kind of like, let's tweak it a tiny bit and make it significantly harder, but other than that, it's pretty much the same layout.
Yeah, but I mean, that's basically like the Wily Castle stage. It just adds a little bit more to that.
Well, the Wily Castle stage is a bit easier than those robot stages. I think it's a bit.
That's what a lot of people
this game. It's not. It's just like it took like the harder stuff and moved it up. It's weird. It's a weird game. It's a weird Mega Man game. There really is no other Mega Man game like it, which is I think one of the things that makes it kind of cool, but it is also frustrating. And I agree that the repeat stages are not especially well done. I remember Sparkman's repeat stage being the coolest looking, but the most frustrating one because there's a lot of the death.
It was
spikes.
Really brutal. Lots of those platforms that kept flying up to the ceiling where spikes were waiting.
It does add a lot of I don't want to say replay value, but it adds a lot of value to the game that it brings back the older bosses because you have to think about what's Mega Man 3 equivalent of that boss's weakness in Mega Man 2?
Yeah, the Doc robots are actually I do like their design and what they do because really no other game in the series has had a blatant throwback to the past. I mean, they probably wouldn't have even had the Doc robots if they had known that the series was going to continue for 7 more sequels on end.
Oh, yeah. And speaking of throwbacks to the past, like this game does follow a rough chronology of it recognizes the earlier games. It recognizes Mega Man 1 when you beat the game. It goes through because Robot Masters in Mega Man 1 were supposed to be built by the same, what's the opposite of mad scientist? Happy scientist? I don't know.
Good scientist whatever Dr.
Not crazy scientist, who built Mega Man, also built these other robots that were the first ones that were turned evil in the first game. And so it shows you like the production number for each robot and like
I mean that's a nice little bit of like lore that shows up and you get to learn Roll's name and it's Roll.
Oh yeah, Roll which makes no sense in the non-Japanese versions of the game.
Mega and Roll, a fantastic genre. This sounds like Mega and or Roll.
Mega Roll. Mega Roll sounds like some really cheap sushi.
Yeah, but but it was also like the last really big surprise ever of the series to find out that this mysterious Scarf Shades robot is actually Proto Man, Mega Man's older brother. Which
that was kind of cool. Like they did some interesting non-verbal kind of storytelling type things.
This is what I think about this one, Mega Man 3. I really feel like it was rushed, and you kind of feel like they took 2 and they're like, all right, we got to add a bunch of stuff. And then they started adding stuff and they went, all right, well, that's great, guys, but we're going to release it in a month. And they were just like, nothing's finished. And they're like, we don't care. And so
I don't care. It has counting my money.
It has like bits and bits and bits and bits of pieces of new ideas. And none of them kind of really click in a big way. They're just kind of like, in this stage, there's the mystery robot jumps around, and then you fight him again and again and again. It's like, okay, but it's the same.
Not only does the game not follow through with those new ideas, the rest of the series doesn't follow through with them. It became a different series after that.
Yeah, for better or worse. I mean,
a different series by being more of the same in that sense.
No, you're right. I mean, I'm a big Mega Man fan, and even if it is more of the same, I just like the formula and seeing all different stages and weapons. And
I do too.
But I do agree. No, I do want to say that I agree that 3 really felt like the last one that was doing something different, because they didn't have an idea that this was just going to keep on going and going. But yeah, on the other hand, that's a double-edged sword, because my opinion on the Doc Robot levels are mixed. I've come to appreciate them more, and no other game in the series has remixed stages like that before. But it does also kind of feel like lazy asset reuse.
They do make the stages different enough, and it does for an NES game. The idea that what you just did had consequences on an environment was kind of cool.
No, I agree.
I'm not really sure. it's not quite like. It's not quite like going back in Super Metroid and seeing some of the stuff you did in the first Metroid.
I will say that the first Mega Man X actually did this. If you beat one stage before going to another, there are a few cases where things would be wrecked as a result. Like Flame Mammoth's factory would be all frozen over, and Spark Mandrill's glass tubes would have been crashed into.
Oh yeah,
and that was a touch that was lost in every other Mega Man X game after that.
They even reintroduced that in Mighty Number 9, I believe. They started having cross-level things if you did things in different orders. So obviously, Ifune actually liked that specific idea, because he seems to have dumped it in games when he gets the chance to.
So I've been kind of quiet, so I'd like to speak for a minute.
Go for it, Bob.
I'll be honest, classic Mega Man has just really never done it for me, and this really is an exception. I never really played any Mega Man until some 2000s when I played the first Mega Man X, and going back to classic games, I just don't really enjoy them all that much.
Do you feel like it's too little or something like that? They're thinking too small, or?
It's more they're based on ideas that I don't feel are fun. I don't like the trial and error aspect of having to guess which enemy you have to fight first.
Well, I mean, to be fair though, except for I think the original Mega Man, that one you really do have to follow a certain order, but the other ones don't. You can still beat several enemies with just your regular weapon.
Mega Man 2, definitely. You can pretty much beat any of the robots in any order. If you want to, if you're okay at the game.
Especially if you're playing on normal instead of hard.
And just get the Metal Blade first and you're set.
I mean, I do agree that specifically in terms of Mega Man, the classic games, you kind of got this thing where if you kind of played them when you were more formative or when they were kind of newer games, you kind of get Mega Man a lot better. I didn't really play that Mega Man games during that time period, so it's really a struggle for me to be like, yeah, I really love trial and error and constantly dying on spikes over and over and everything cheap hits me. Man, this is fun. It's
what
not.
Else?
Also, disappearing blocks aren't fun. They won't. They'll never be fun, and you're wrong if you think they won't.
I agree with that 100%.
Even I admit the Yoku blocks are bullshit, and that they think that they have to keep bringing those back every single game kind of makes the developers feel malicious. Although this was parodied in a fan game where there's a robot master made that was entirely based on the blocks as gimmicks, and they made the hardest level ever out of this. It's, well, that's neither here nor there.
Right. I mean, there's a certain satisfaction to learning the pattern and mastering it, and that's what I love most about Mega Man 2 is that the game, it's just short enough that you can play through it, several times very easily with that and get a little bit better. But Mega Man 3 is just so long, it's really hard. It is a game that they said, let's make a Mega Man game that you cannot easily beat in one sitting, and they did that. And I don't know whether that was the best idea, but it was definitely...
Well, because if you fail on the Dark Robot stages, the checkpointing is terrible. It'll throw you back to the start of the stage and stuff.
Oh, yes.
What?
Yeah, the Doc Robot levels really are the pinnacle of the difficulty. However, I will say I've always found it a little easier than 2 for some reason. I couldn't tell you why exactly, but I think part of that might be because the Rush jet is totally broken in this game. You can ride it anywhere and have it dodge anything. It's fully
it doesn't deplete its fuel.
Like if you're willing to kind of cheese the game a little bit, like if you abuse the new systems they add, it gets kind of easier, which I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing in some ways.
It's both.
I'll tell you this, like I've played probably Mega Man 3 twice as much as I played Mega Man 2. Mega Man 2 I can do by muscle memory alone. It's one of the few games I could probably get pretty far blindfolded. Because it works like that. Whereas Mega Man 3, I've played much more, but it doesn't have that kind of structure to it where you can just people used to my brother used to watch me play Airman stage in Mega Man 2 where when those birds come by and drop like the eggs, and sometimes they're completely obscured by the cloud cover and you can't see them at all. I would shoot the eggs out of the air before you can even see them on the screen because I know exactly where they are. I can do that, and that was after probably 10 years of not playing any where I didn't have my NES with me. When I moved out of my hometown, I didn't bring my games with me. I didn't have the space for them. So I just picked it up, and he watched me play it for the first time. Probably 10 years is an exaggeration, maybe like 6 or 7. But 6, 7, 8 years, and you watched me do that, and I could still shoot those eggs out of the air. Can't do that with Mega Man 3. There's too much. It does have a lot of different stuff to it.
2 feels natural in a lot of it's like, oh, I feel like, you just kind of get into this intuitive mindset, whereas 3 is kind of like, it feels like, because it's probably rushed. It feels like
the level design is not quite there. I think it's level. People don't talk about level design in Mega Man very much because they really talk about the mechanics of it, but the level design is not there in Mega Man 3. It's not.
The level design is very important in these games too. When you look at one of these levels and you actually look at the level, you're like, because it's got just the way the level varies and the little bits of challenge it throws at you. You're like, I really feel this. And then 3 is kind of like, here's a corridor. There's an enemy that kind of just shoots, and there's another corridor that they jump, and it's like, okay, well this is, I guess, once I've gotten around how cheap it is in places, I can get through it, but it's not interesting.
Yeah, I was going to say, feel Mega Man is kind of at its best, and you got a lot of interesting platforming challenges set up. And you don't have that, you basically just jump and shoot, to quote some guy.
And slide. Okay, well, I think we're good to...
I think let's rank this.
All right. For this being the first Mega Man game, this one's, I think, really tricky to rank, because some people actually do make a good case for calling it their favorite, even more so than 2.
I think they're wrong.
Well, I would rank it very high. This one is definitely one of my favorites, due to that sort of, I sort of appreciate the sloppiness in a way. I know that sounds stupid, but this one really does feel unique, set apart from the rest of the series, and even if it doesn't always work out in that way, I think that they really just tried to make it different, and for the most part succeeded. But not having another Mega Man game to compare this to, it's kind of tricky.
Well, right. I mean, you don't have to. I mean, this is always an issue with this ranking show. Although we are totally legit, scientific, and objective in every conceivable dimension, it's hard because you're aware of these other games. It's not like you can't. Everybody knows. I think without question, we all would agree, except maybe Bob and who just wouldn't care, that Mega Man 2 is a better game than Mega Man 3.
If you're gonna purely from which one feels more coherent, makes sense, and is kind of feels stronger, Mega Man 2. I get 3 is okay, it's a bit sloppy, but it's a bit creative. That's cool.
Right.
But if you put them next to each other, you'd be like, well, I still think 2 is probably better because it's better.
I think except for the really horrendously evil 4th Wily Castle stage, 2 is almost a perfect game for me, so I don't know if that's
I would pretty high. I'm thinking for Mega Man 3, I'm thinking below Alien Soldier, above Castlevania 4, or possibly below Castlevania 4, above Faster Than Light.
Well, I do love Castlevania 4.
Actually, no, I would say below Faster Than Light, above Carmen Sandiego. How about that?
It just keeps laddering down.
Yeah, you want to put it actually below Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego? Maybe put it below.
No. Let's cut it off somewhere. No, I like that.
You don't want to slide it down.
I'll work with it. I'm just completely oblivion.
Ambivalent, Bob, is the
Yes, thank you.
No
Or
problem.
oblivious. You could choose one or the other. Usually this is Sotinga's wheelhouse, is making up or using them in ways that don't actually make sense.
Oh, Bob can be nebulous if he wants.
But no, I'm actually
usage.
Between FTL and Carmen Sandiego, I like that. No, I'm actually cool with it. It's high enough, I think, with the proviso that 2 is definitely going to rank higher when we get around to that, and all the others. Well, we'll get to those.
You don't get to choose where they go. It'll go where it goes when we get to it.
Okay.
But,
yeah.
The only thing I would say is that Carmen Sandiego is above Worms, Armageddon, Ninja Baseball, Batman, Space Harrier. Like Carmen Sandiego got a lot of cred for just being something kind of special and new and different in that it's an edutainment game. It's actually fun.
Yeah, there really was nothing like it at a time.
Maybe Mega Man 3 deserves to be even lower. And I'm not saying it's because I don't like the game. We've got a big list already.
Look, I'll say something because this is my personal, and I'm a fanboy for not Mega Man. So, I personally would rather play Wonder Boy Monsterland than 3.
Yeah,
that's my personal opinion.
But it's mostly because I played Mega Man 3 to death. It's really hard for me to look at that game as something other than a game that I've been playing since like that Christmas after it came out. Like I was like the Nintendo 64 kid. Yeah, so happy to get the game, and I played it probably more than any other Nintendo game I had except for Metroid maybe.
But what I mean is, especially when we had mentioned Mega Man 2 a little bit, Mega Man 3 is maybe not the pinnacle of the Mega Man franchise, and a lot of these games are kind of the pinnacle of their individual franchises.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so I think I was putting it way too high. Now that you mention it. No, look, I mean,
I'd fight Mega Man 2 to be high. That's
too. I would put Mega Man 2 really, really high.
That's fair. In that case,
Mega Man 3 could have been really something special, and at the end of the day I kind of agree with Inafune. It was rushed to market. They should have had more time to develop it and make Mega Man into something a little bit more different. Instead, this is kind of like the beginning of the end for the series in a way.
They should have called the dog Slow, am I right?
God. Here, hang on. Here, you made a good point. Let me be fair. How about this? Between Yoshi's Island and Crash 2.
Yes, as long as it's above Crash 2.
Oh, hey, no, don't piss off Bob. Come on, please.
I'll
go on strike.
Bobinator's like, as long as you guys stop talking about Mega Man, I will say whatever you want, whenever you
Crash,
want.
Though, and Crash 2 is the best Crash probably.
Yeah.
I would.
It's like saying the 50% human feces pie is better than the 100% human feces pie.
We're sorry, dude. We're sorry.
This rank thing.
Yeah, I stick by my ranking.
You guys know where I stand. If you guys want it to be higher, that's cool. I'm not gonna.
No, I don't want to put Mega Man 3 too high just because it's a Mega Man game. Okay. So I understand how you guys feel. Like I'm not.
No, I'm a Mega Man fanboy too, but you do make some good points, and I want to be fair. So, but 3 does, I still think, rank highly for its relative distinctiveness from the rest of the series. So, between Yoshi's Island and Crash 2, take it or leave it. Final bids. Everyone good?
I'm seconding that. If we have one more agreement, it's good.
Yeah, all right.
Okay.
Oh, it's Bobinator. That makes it that's like as good
you
as
betrayed the Bandicoot.
Guys, quit taunting him over it, for God's sake. Let's not kick the
you can
Oscar
lock
the
it in.
Here.
You can lock it in. I'm not gonna fight the seething hordes of Mega Man fans.
It's like when the Viet Cong would put captured
You
GIs
can't put
and
one below Crash. Is that not okay?
Anti-American
Guys,
statement
the more you say this, the more Bob's gonna downvote it. For fuck's sake.
Just one below Crash. That's all I'm asking.
One below. Oh, okay. So we don't agree. All right.
Do you want a coin toss? Do you want to just bring it out? Do you want to bring out
coin
the coin
toss above or below Crash Bandicoot 2? Okay, I'm okay.
I
with
vote
that.
heads. Heads.
Okay.
All right.
Who's got a coin? Who here does?
Wait, I thought you had. All right. Do you want me to get a coin out? I can do an Australian coin.
I usually bring one.
All right.
Australian coins are square, right? Is this?
Yeah, we actually have a coin that is like 8 sides or something. It's very cool.
Wow. That's pretty neat.
Our 50-cent coin. Look it up. Very cool stuff.
It's an octa coin.
All right, I'm just tossing the coin in my hand.
It's got Yahoo Serious on the one side. So
I don't know. If it's
heads, it's
Bob
Yahoo
said
Streets.
So heads is what? Heads is what? Like
heads is Crash.
All right, heads is Crash. It goes below or above Crash?
Below.
All right, here we go. I got the coin. I'm flipping. I'm gonna let it hit the ground. I'm not gonna try and catch it.
Yeah, let it hit the ground. That's right.
I don't know if you guys can hear it, but it fell over there.
Oh, I'm listening.
It's heads. You want a picture of it?
Oh, Justice liver today.
I'm not going to argue this. It still goes pretty high, and I don't know. I think you guys were really too mean to Bob just now, so I totally approve of this.
Between Crash 2 and Super Mario Land. Got it. Let's never speak of this again.
I agree.
No, that was good.